Broadcasting from the Ante Up studio, it's the longest running poker podcast for the everyday poker player with your host, Joe Scale.
Hello, A-Team. It's Friday, May 12th. The weather is warmer, everything is finally green outside here in Virginia, and there's actually a rabbit outside watching me record this through the window right now. I have a couple of things to touch on. First of all, I have a new segment this week where we talk strategy. Mark has been on the last few weeks talking to me about different strategy topics, so now it's become its own segment. I hope you enjoy it. It's not replacing anything, although I don't have a How You Running segment this week. I was actually talking to Dick Stein, the new ambassador for the Colorado area, and we had some audio trouble. He sent me the information that he was going to talk about, but I'm going to try and get him on again to talk about the area. I have also created the Ante Up YouTube channel, and it's up and running. Simply go to YouTube and search for Ante Up Poker Media. I've been adding my past episodes of the podcast there. Eventually, I'll be recording the podcast with video, but for now, I have the audio out there to reach a new group of listeners. Which brings me to the next point. I've also created a link tree. You can find the link tree on our social media channels, but it'll also be in the show description. It's just an easy tool that houses all of Ante Up's different pieces in one place. So you can link to the podcast, the YouTube channel, the website, the magazine, all from one place. Also, thank you to everyone that's bought some Ante Up gear lately. There's been a pretty strong increase in the online store. That said, I'm also looking for some other options to use for our merch. So, if you have any ideas on places you like or think I should stay away from, send it to me at podcast@anteupmagazine.com. Also, let me know if you have some ideas on types of products you would like. Like cups or backpacks, card protectors. Tell me what you'd like, and I'll try to find them. Okay, I think that's all I have, so let's get on with the show.
Find out what conversations are happening around the poker table with Table Talk.
We are back around the poker table with Mike once again. Mike, how you doing?
Another year older and deeper in debt. Hey, I want to thank everybody out there in Neverland for the birthday wishes. You guys were awesome. All you folks that sent me the emails and the clips and stuff, I certainly appreciate that. That was very kind.
Yeah.
And I was not expecting that, Joe.
It was a good response.
Well, yeah, then you, just so you guys know, he set up a poker game and called my wife and told her that he was stealing me from my birthday weekend. He set up a poker game down there in Roanoke and pulled me down there for the weekend. Holy cow.
We had a good time playing too. We had a good group of people, and actually our hand of the week this week is from that game.
Hey, I told him not to mess with the old man.
You did. You looked him right in the eyes. You did. But yeah, we had so much fun. I'm glad that you had fun with the game, and hope you enjoyed your day off since you didn't have to record last week.
Oh boy. It's been I haven't recorded in several, it seems like.
Yeah, Elle took your place 2 weeks ago, and then we had Jeff Platt and Jamie Kerstetter on talking about the Dreamers podcast.
So thank y'all very much for that, because I wasn't in much mood to talk.
So we got our YouTube channel up and going.
Yes, sir. Mash that button.
That means that you're going to have to be on camera when we record these things. Are you going to be able to handle that?
I'm sure I can. I don't know if anybody else is going to be able to handle it. Your listeners might shut their screen down, just shut it off. Said, no. Oh, just don't look me in the eye, man. You might turn to stone. No, I'm looking forward to that. It's gonna be pretty cool. I'll get my makeup kit out and get myself all made up, put my glasses on straight. And
oh, hey.
that's going to be fun because and I know I went back and looked on the channel. Like right now, I understand that the ones you're putting up and just getting there are the earlier ones, and all these folks understand they're not going to see anything. They're just going to go
Right.
get in there and listen. But man, once we get after next week or so, we start getting the video ones up. They'll get to see our expressions and everything. I guess I'm gonna have to be careful where I'm talking from. I
Right.
can't sit on the throne anymore. Oh yeah. No, this is good. This is good, Joe.
Hey, so we talked about the last time you were on. Actually, we talked about the worm at the poker table.
Yes.
And whether we liked
Yep.
it or didn't like it.
We sure did.
You were in the camp that it was not good, right?
Yes. I mean, I like to see some chips standing up there, not rolling across the table.
One of the listeners actually sent in a picture and a little bit of a compromise. He had the half worm, half stacked.
I saw that.
poker
You
chips.
sent it to me.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, folks.
What do you think of that?
Let me tell you, folks. He called it the half worm, right?
Yeah.
It's not bad. It really isn't. I think I like it.
Well, the thing that my first impression when I saw it was that dude's been winning. He had a lot of chips.
I said, well, he can do about any daggone thing he wants to with those chips.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, if I had that many chips, I'm going to stack them any way I want.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So, I appreciate you sending in. Jeremy was the guy's name. I appreciate you sending in that picture and that compromise for Mike.
I tell you what, I think I'll give it a try just for you.
We should have done it on Saturday for your birthday game.
I couldn't tell my chips were standing up or laid over Saturday. Oh my gosh, what are you talking about?
You had so many chips that I don't even want to hear that.
I don't.
We were talking about that. You had the entire.
I'm not lying to y'all guys. I did really well. I think they just did that for my birthday though.
Yeah, we all just felt sorry for you. Not at all.
Yeah, I had a really good night. Yeah,
it's good.
It was fun. Yeah, we should have tried it though. That's all right. Guess what?
Yeah.
You're invited up here tomorrow night.
We getting a game going?
Yeah, come on up here. Yeah, we're going to play here tomorrow night. Let's do that.
All right. Do I need to bring the chips or you got them?
I got plenty of chips. I don't.
All right.
I use the green ones and the silver ones.
The green ones and the silver ones.
Yeah, you don't need chips when you just quarters and dimes and nickels.
Yeah.
Dollars, and if it says 5 on it, that means 5. Yep. Ain't no trying to remember those colors. Like, how much is this one worth? What's it say on it? I don't know. It doesn't say nothing. It's orange. Let's not be worth much in.
Well, I'll work on making it up there for that. What else do you want to talk about today? What else you got on there?
There's a huge thing, Joe.
Yeah.
I've been working my butt off on this, and I've been trying to get stuff together and trying to get these games set up that we were trying, to plan for in Virginia.
Right.
There was no real regulations governing it. Virginia was afraid that they was going to get people to come in and say, yeah, we're a charity poker hall, and just not be,
Okay.
And I see the point. I understand. I know exactly where, the delegates and all that are talking about. I understand what they're saying. There's folks that are going to do things like that. I volunteered to help, but I'm going to stay involved with it and maybe go to some of the legislature meetings in Richmond this year later on. I think they're having them every couple of months.
Okay.
And see if I can say my 2 cents and help out. In the meantime, we'll be working with you and everything. And I know you've made some contacts up in the Windy City.
Yeah.
And other places, and it won't be much longer. We're hoping that we're going to be announcing late in either the last quarter of this year or last few months or months of this year, the Ante Up Charitable Poker Tour.
Yep.
And we're hoping to get that to get going and get the right people involved in it.
Bet on better.
Bet on better. That's going to be our theme. We're going to bet on better. Poker players bet on better.
That's right.
And y'all be watching out for that, keeping your eye on the website and things as we go, especially on the YouTube channel. Watch for stuff on that too. But get on that. Guys, get on YouTube for us.
Yep. Give us a
Joe
like.
will tell you where to go and give us a like and subscribe and let's push this puppy out there. Let's show them that we got something going here.
Yeah. So when you're looking for it on YouTube, it is Ante Up Poker Media, and you'll see our logo there. Subscribe and yeah, that's that's where we're at with that. I think that's all I got.
And that's the way it is. Thanks, guys. And Joe, thank y'all for listening to me and having me on.
All right, Mike, I appreciate you. Have a good one.
Adios, amigo. Have a good one.
Now it's time for Call the Floor with Elliot Schechter.
Elliot Schechter is the poker room manager for Rivers Casino in Schenectady, New York. He joins us each week to say how he would rule on situations that come up in your games, and he's with me again this week. Elliot, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. The weather is beautiful. The rain has stopped, so I'm good.
Beautiful baseball weather.
Exactly. Speaking of which, have you been able to follow any?
Yes, the season's gone haywire. I mean, there's very few teams that have been able to put any strong streaks together.
Yeah, well, my team has put a strong streak together. It's just not a winning streak.
The Royals are having challenge. Hey, at least they're not the A's.
That is true. That is true.
I mean, the A's would be hard pressed to win half their games at AAA.
Yeah, that is true. We've never really talked about. I know you're from Florida, so are you a Tampa Bay fan?
I'm from South Florida. I'm a Marlins fan.
Marlins fan, okay.
But mostly the Phillies.
Really?
Yeah, I was born in Philadelphia. That's where all our family is from.
Okay. All right. So the Phillies and the Marlins, we'll keep an eye on those.
Yeah, the Phillies' longtime clubhouse manager while they played at Veterans Stadium and before they played at the Vet, a gentleman by the name of Mooney Weiss was my grandfather's best friend.
Really?
Yes. They were lifelong pals, and during spring training every year, after my grandmother moved to Florida, we would still host Mooney for dinner every winter.
Interesting. I learn more and more about you every week. Well, this week's Call the Floor is a little bit different. It's sent in by Jeff Robertson, and he says, after listening to your conversation last week about when to call the floor, I'm wondering if I should have called the floor in this situation. He says, I have ace-king offsuit in the big blind. There is a raise from the cutoff and a re-raise from the button. The small blind calls, and I, not wanting so many players in the hand, make it even more to play. The cutoff folds. The button then says out loud, man, I only have a trapping hand, and raises enough to put me all in. The small blind mumbles about what the guy said about a trapping hand and eventually calls. It checks down the whole way. The button turns over ace-queen and small blind has pocket nines. In my opinion, the small blind only called because of what the guy said about a trapping hand. I got up and left, but the whole way home I was wondering if I should have said something about the comment. I feel like that comment cost me money. So what do you think about that, Elliot?
Well, I think this is very interesting. Should you have called the floor? Yes, to get a clarification, merely explaining what the rules are regarding disclosure or describing the action or speculation. But if I'm called over to this table to give a clarification or ruling, I'm in no way ruling against the gentleman who made this statement. A trapping hand means nothing. What is a trapping hand? Is it pair of deuces? Is it ace queen? Is it pocket kings? Is it jack 10 suited or offsuit? A trapping hand means nothing. Anytime you get a chance to re-raise, that's a trapping hand. Big deal. It means nothing. There's nothing to be said about this other than the guy on the button was pretty shrewd and clever and playing the game of poker.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's so upsetting? I mean, and we still don't know the outcome. We don't know if ace queen or nines won the pot. If ace queen wins the pot, but ace king doesn't, then obviously the queen hit. I'm feeling my way through the dark here.
Yeah, I think kind of what is going through his brain is something like, one player to a hand or but they didn't say anything about the opponent's hand. They didn't say anything. They just said, I have a trapping hand, which, to your point, I mean, that could be anything. And, if somebody asks somebody across the table, do you have the hearts, with the 3-heart board? Do you have the hearts?
That's completely different. And yeah, when they're playing Go Fish, that is disclosing the contents
Yeah.
of your hand in a multi-way spot, and that's generally against most rooms rules, and it should be.
Yeah.
This wasn't that in any way, shape, or form.
Right. He was very vague about what a trapping hand is. He didn't say, I have X, Y, or Z. He said, I have a trapping hand. So I'm when I read this before, I was on the same page. You know, it's like if he would have been more specific and he said, oh, well, I mean, gosh, I have ace queen, that would be different. Or I have an ace or a weak ace, or saying something like that. That's
right. I got a big pair here. I was trying to trap. Yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I only have a trapping hand and then raises. If he's trapping, why is he raising? He got his action. He got people in the pot.
Right.
Or he trapped dead money in the pot. Again, he just described what happened, and pretty well he trapped. But you know what? Tough. We still don't know who would have won the pot.
I think the biggest thing is, we all, when we bust out of a tournament or put in our last little bit on a cash game and we're driving home, we always think about what could we have done different or whatever. And it sounds like he got a little fixated on the speech play from his opponent.
Yeah. There's nothing more nagging, annoying, and demoralizing than being very visibly and overtly outplayed.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jeff, in the future, like we said, if they're specific about their hand, then that sounds like a spot to call the floor over and be like, I don't think that is legal. But in this situation, it doesn't sound to me like anybody did anything wrong.
No. Once again, the poker's not played in a library, and there are some European casinos that only let you say the 5 words, call, bet, check, raise, fold. But that's not the way poker's played in the United States or most places.
Right.
Conversation, gamesmanship, that's part of the game. And this was nothing more than pretty shrewd gamesmanship.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, I hope that clears things up for you. Everybody, if you have a call the floor that you would like Elliot to break down, be sure to send it to podcast@anteupmagazine.com. Elliot, I really appreciate you joining me again, and we'll talk next week.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Let's break it down with Hand of the Week.
We are back with another Hand of the Week, and this week is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, let me tell you.
We're back here with Patrick. Patrick, so how are you doing? Are you okay?
I have recovered. So I would what you say okay. As we talked about last week, I don't have any sports teams. That's not true. The Celtics are still winning. As we're recording this, they won tonight too, so we're good there. As far as my poker play, we have work to do, and as the listeners are going to hear, whew, did I get just run through a shredder?
All right, so we talk about this on Table Talk as well, but we had a poker game here, a home game. It was Mike's birthday, so we had a home game to kind of celebrate his birthday. And so today's Hand of the Week is going to be a hand that Patrick played in the home game. And I think you're going to enjoy it.
It's a doozy, let me tell you.
All right, so let's start with, we're playing 25 cent, 50 cent, right? So
yes,
you've got about $30 in your stack. Big Blind has the whole table covered, which happens to be Mike. He has the entire table covered with about $60 in his stack. The cutoff also is in this hand with you. He has about $45 in his stack. You're under the gun, so I'm going to let you take it away from there.
Okay, so I'm sitting in under the gun, and I am sitting holding Queen 8 of spades. So comes to me, I just call the cutoff calls as well.
Okay.
And then
everybody folds in around to the big blind.
The big blind, which happens to be Mike. Mike bets 225.
Okay.
I quickly call. I'm feeling good about my Queen 8 of spades, which we can talk about later, but we'll go from there. So I call.
Okay.
And the cutoff calls as well.
All right, so you've got 3 to the flop. There's $7 in the pot. Flop is Queen of Hearts, 5 of clubs, 7 of diamonds. So you hit top pair.
I do hit top pair.
Okay.
Mike first to bet. Mike bets 4
Bets $4.
with 7 in the pot. I quickly call, which is going to be a running theme through this hand that there should be some more thought processes probably. But I quickly call, and the cutoff falls out of this. So it's just me and Big Stack Mike.
Okay. So the two of you in the hand with $15 in the pot. The turn is the Queen of Clubs.
Correct.
Now this is where things get kind of dicey because now you've got trip queens, right?
I do. I've got my trips. Mike again pushes this, and he pushes it good. He throws in $12.
Okay, so he bet 12 into a pot of 15.
Correct.
Did this send any alarm bells off in your head at all?
This was the only time, very honestly, that a thought process came out. Like, what does he have and why? So it was a quick call, but I will tell you that. So my thought process was at that point, I don't know, but he's got 2 pair of something. Maybe he's got, aces. I mean, to be honest with you, I thought he might have had 2 pair higher than queens. Like he's holding pocket kings or he's holding pocket aces. The betting would reflect that based on how the table had gone from there. At least that was my first thought. But again, as the running theme was, it was a quick call. Not a whole lot of time went into it after that. But that was the thought process.
If I remember right, his bet was quick as well. Like there was no hesitation. Yeah.
It was 0. I definitely put more time into my call of him than his bets. It was just very quick, to the point. So yeah, that's what I made him on was aces or kings, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So I've got my trips. He's got 2 pair aces and queens or kings and queens, and I call the $12 bet.
Okay.
So now I'm in for a lot of my stack.
Yeah. There's 39 in the pot.
This is where I think the novice in me, as if we've come to learn and how I play hands as we go, it was less about trying to figure out what he had and how I should play it, and more thinking that I had already set my sights on, okay, well, this is what he's got, and I'm going to go ahead and possibly double up my stack. Like this is me getting back in the game, and I let that kind of run through me, so the logic started to go away quickly from here.
So you were already counting the chips. You were already like, yeah, I've got this.
I think there's a song about that, but yes, I clearly was. All right, so yeah, go for it. So River comes out.
River is the 10 of diamonds, right?
Which to me helps nobody. Okay. I've got trips. I win. Like in my head, I've got him. He's got 2 pair. I'm good to go. He bets very quickly 15. And Joe, what did he say?
He said, so he bets, he puts the 15 out there and he says, he looks at you, he turns, looks you square in the eyes and says, you don't want to call this. And what did you do?
So as I told Joe and the rest of the table after this hand, I like an idiotic peacock with my chest puffed out, said, I'm all in. Not even knowing that the $15 bet has got me covered with the chips that I have left. And the look on Mike's face was part joy because he knew he had me, and part, what was this kid thinking? And I flipped my cards over like I had just taken down the house.
And what did he turn over?
My man Mike comes in with pocket 5s and a boat.
And let me tell you, the entire table erupted.
The antics on how everything was called is what made it even better. And we can only describe it so much, but it was, I mean, like I said, after the queen came out and I had made him, like I said, for aces or kings, I had won. I was ready to go. I had gone to the next hand. I was so
You were like, I have made the money for the night.
I've taken half of Mike's stack. I've thrown everyone off a little bit on how they're playing because I had been bleeding chips up to that point a little bit.
And I will say, Mike had been running over the table.
Oh yeah, hand and fist,
and just accumulating so many chips.
And the other thing too is he was winning hands of all different sorts. I mean, he was playing a lot of different hands, and I think I just had made him for a top pair, and I'd finally gotten him, and that just added to it. I mean, that added to the lack of logical thinking. So we can kind of dissect this now, but like I said, I threw in and was raring to go. Clearly, I mean, I didn't even know how many chips I had. Like, let's go! I'm all in, and he took me down. So.
All right, so let's start with the fact that you're playing Queen 8 of spades under the gun. Maybe not do that.
So what you're saying is I could have saved my entire stack other than a
100%. I mean, 100%. First of all, if you're going to play Queen 8 of spades, which don't do it, but if you are, at least come in for a raise.
Let me ask you this. So the thought process for me, and then you and I talked about this after we got done our game, that I ended up playing a lot of hands, and that's something that I got to work on, or way too many hands, I think was the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
But Queen 8 of spades to me now, and maybe the position's a little bit different too, but like Queen 8 of spades to me is, hey, high card there. I've suited up. Why not at least see the flop?
Okay.
So what's your thought on that?
So why not see the flop is a problem. Because because if you see the flop, right, and you get a queen,
which I did,
now you don't have much of a kicker. If Mike's over there playing ace queen, then you're in trouble. And if you're looking for the spades, playing a hand under the gun, looking for a flush is a problem.
Yeah.
There are positions that you can do that with, but the first to act is not the one.
Okay.
So let's say Mike wasn't even playing pocket fives. Let's say Mike was playing ace queen. He still beats you.
Yeah, he does.
So
I mean, in all honesty, looking at how the board ended up playing out, he plays anything more than Queen 8, he beats me.
Yeah. And Queen 10 is definitely in his range, which then
would have voted him up anyway.
Yeah. So that's where the problems began. Was right there. If you're gonna play it, you got to come in for a raise, but I would still say don't play it.
Well, let me ask you this too. So curious. So I got Queen 8 of spades. If I push the bet there with Mike being in the big blind, do you think he ends up calling it with pocket fives? Could I have pushed him out?
You would have had to have bet pretty big, I think, to push him out. Okay. And I say that because he had such a big stack.
Gotcha.
If he was a short stack, maybe he thinks about it a little bit more. But he had so many chips; he had the table covered, so he's probably calling anyway.
Okay, all right.
Which is another piece of the puzzle to look at. Like what does the table have in front of them compared to what you have in front of you? Because if you don't have enough chips in front of you, then are you going to be able to make any kind of bet that's going to scare anybody, right?
Yeah, so, true.
Which you had $30, so it's not terrible. So then after the flop, you make your top pair. Mike leads into you. I don't necessarily think that your call at this point is awful. Again, it's compounded because you're playing a hand that you shouldn't be in there with anyway. But if you're there and you make top pair, I mean, what are you hoping for, right? So you made your top pair, but he bets a big part of that pot. $4. Yeah. He bets $4 into $7. That should send some alarm bells there.
Yeah.
Because he definitely has small pocket pairs in his range at that point. So you've got to think about it a little bit. There was no hesitation to your call. So I don't necessarily think, it's not an awful play, but you got to think about it a little bit.
Hindsight being 2020, even if I make them for aces or kings in his hand, and I make top pair from there. With a $4 bet, that's probably you should have gone from there. I mean, that's even if that was the mindset, then I probably should go away from there.
Right. And if you think he doesn't have aces or kings, maybe he has pocket jacks or something like that, and you think you're ahead, raise him. See if you can get him to fold pocket jacks or something like that.
Yeah. And then I would have found out real quick that he's got something more than that, or he's trying to bluff it off.
Right.
Before the turn came out, and then just really compounded everything.
So that turn comes out with another queen, and then
he had me. I mean, that's just he played it absolutely. From what I gather, and you correct me if I'm wrong, he played it absolutely perfect from there. I mean, it wasn't hard, to push that action that way.
Right, but from the turn on, it just is a nightmare. So
yeah, I went flat out is, and you opened the segment up with asking how I am. There was a few nights that I woke up with dancing boats in my head. It's not good. I mean, the only thing that would have made it worse, and the listeners will remember this, is if there was if he had pocket twos and a 2 came out of the floor, that would have been even worse.
Did we see any pocket twos that night?
We did. We saw. Yep. I think. Did Marcus play twos?
Maybe.
I think Marcus played
twos,
and he got a set. That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
He did, and he slow played it all the way through because Joe ended up pushing him hard.
Yeah.
And he ended up taking him down very quietly. God, love the twos. But yeah, I mean, the Queen of Clubs comes out. He pushes 12. Again, I'm that's a big bet again. I like I said, I quickly think about that one. I'm like, okay, well, I've got my trips on that one. I think again, I'm making them on aces or kings. Totally wrong. It's just too big of a bet for what I was thinking.
Yeah, and again, I think that it's one of those, if you slow down and you really think it through, I think you come to the right conclusion. If you just really start asking yourself, well, what does he have that he's pushing this action like that with? I think you got stuck on him having a certain hand, and there was no change in your mind.
Yeah. Hence why the 10 of diamonds comes out, and the quickest. Looking back on it, he had me set up from the turn, because as soon as the river came out, he had enough chips in his hand, to push me all in immediately. And then it was set up city, and you don't want to call this came out.
Right.
I'm looking forward to getting. I shouldn't say this. Maybe this is that idiotic peacock again, but I'm looking forward to sitting down with Mike again. It was an enjoyable game, even though I lost, quite a few, but it was a good adversary.
It was a fun game. It was a very fun game, and we need to do it way more often than we have been able to.
Absolutely. And after being able to tell my my hand of the week, I'm sure the next home game we have, there'll be another one. So, and then sooner or later down the road, this novice will turn into a little bit more of an experienced novice, and hopefully we get some better wins.
Well, you have been getting better, but then it all went out the window on that hand. So
there's so many things wrong.
All right. Well, we'll catch you on the next one. Actually, next week, I'm so looking forward to this next week's hand of the week. We're breaking down a hand from our ambassador, Todd Lemansky. We're breaking down a mixed game hand. So it's not Hold'em, which I'm so excited about. So it'll
nice.
We'll blow your mind. You're going to have to do a little study beforehand.
All right. Study session between now and then. We'll figure that one out.
All right. Patrick, I appreciate you breaking down your hand, whatever you want to call it. I appreciate you sharing that with everybody. We'll catch you on the next one.
It was my pleasure. Look forward to it. You guys have a great week.
Let's take a timeout to talk strategy in the Coach's Corner.
Mark Berman has been a poker coach for over 15 years. He's been an Ante Up lead columnist for years as well. And he's joining me again today to talk a little strategy. Mark, how you been?
Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. How's things treating you?
Really good, really good. I have a busy day. I got 3 lessons today. My calendar is usually one or two. I think you already know that I sort of have a system whereby my students will email me hands and then we discuss them.
Right.
And it's a time proven way to level up one's game.
Right.
It's one thing looking at something else that somebody else played or watching a hand on YouTube or looking at the XYZ website that says, how would you play it? And that's great exercise. But there's nothing quite like digging into a hand that you were in for the learning process.
Right.
So it's kind of like flying an airplane versus actually flying it and putting your hours in or doing a virtual flying. When you're virtually flying, you're looking at someone else's hands. But when you're actually flying with an instructor next to you, and this is an analogy off the top of my head, so I hope it's a good one.
No, I think that's good. It's always best to learn from what you are doing rather than from what someone else is doing, because you're the one who did it. So you know why you did it. Therefore, you can learn from that a little bit better.
From a coaching standpoint, there's nothing better than having 8 people that get together every Wednesday at the, at your little Denny's or whatever. They get a private room and go around the room and have a 1-hour poker discussion. Everybody gets to talk about their results and what they are doing. And I run those meetings. And the meeting I had that ran for 5 years, I learned more. I think I learned more from my students than they may have learned from me.
Absolutely.
Because they would come in with amazing stuff that they read or ideas, and I thought I knew everything, and I'd be like, huh.
Those are great.
Really?
Yeah, those are great moments.
Linda Johnson or Mike Sexton or whoever it was, Card Player Magazine, they wrote, what about speculative hands? And I'd be like, yeah, I've been playing those wrong. I'm in love with them, but I'm not, doing it. I would, the guy would walk in and he'd have a copy for everybody of the article, wherever he read it.
Right.
And so I had a lot of geeks and a lot of wonky people at the meeting. I call it half artists, half engineers. And it was just a great, great learning place.
Nice. Speaking of speculative hands, let's talk about those a little bit.
Yeah.
So, well, first of all, talk a little bit about what a speculative hand would be and what would be a reason to play a speculative hand.
Okay. I just want to say real quick, I want to give myself a plug.
Okay.
If your listener does not know what a speculative hand means, they should get in touch with me, because that means there's something missing in their game and their knowledge of the game. A speculative hand is a lesser hand on the value chart, and could include single gappers, double gappers, 6-7 suited, things like that. And I don't include pairs because pairs get their own category. And I have 3 categories of pairs also, but we're not going to get into pairs. Let's park pairs for next week.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be good.
Okay, so back to speculative hands. These are the hands that win the monster pots. These are the hands that bring in pots so big that a show dog couldn't jump over them. That's for all your Southern listeners. People from the South like that like those kind of sayings. I should say folks
Yeah,
from the
folks
South.
from the South. That's right. People like Mike from Table Talk.
Absolutely, and I want to meet Mike. I've been really enjoying your banter with him. But people win regular / small pots with aces, and they win monster pots with 5, 7, 5, 8 offsuit. And it's like, what, and people always, you look around the table and somebody's dragging a pot with 5, 8 offsuit, and you're wondering what just happened. So speculative hands are really what separate winners, and those are the people that play these hands in the right way. And you always hear people whispering about them when they're walking to the cage, and they're saying, lucky son of a bitch.
You always know when you've got them talking to themselves, then you did all right.
If they're saying that guy's lucky, well, he's probably creating his own luck. So the first question would be, no, you don't just play a 2-gapper arbitrarily. You want the situation to be right. Sometimes when you go fishing, you change your fishing hole, but You really want the situation to be right. And here's the situation. You got an early position, middle position raiser. Someone else comes in. By definition, we're in a later position because we've been able to see this. Now we like the price. If we come in, so we're the third person to enter. Let's just imagine for your listeners that it's a 1-2 game and somebody makes it $9 to go. No, that is not appropriate GTO betting, but not that unusual. Razor makes it $9 to go. Now the person calls. Would be a great time to enter with a speculative hand. And by you entering, you might be bringing in the blinds. So now all of a sudden you have a 4 or 5-way pot with like $50 in it, and you've gotten a great price. So already you're in positive equity territory. So the math has to work. And I am not a geeky wonky player. I'm a field player. But by accident, the math really does work. It's not like you make the decision and you say, wow, the math works. You make the decision based on the fact that you're getting the right price. Now that I've confused everybody, imagine you have the exact same hand, 5-7 offsuit, and somebody raises under the gun and everybody folds to you. Well, you fold it. That's not the right price. You don't want to find yourself heads up against a monster, and now you're in negative equity territory. Whether you're a live player or you're an online player, and you can, the word I was looking for last week that I couldn't think of is you can pull out the filter and you can see what seats win in what situation. So you can use your filters to up your game if you're an online player. You don't have that luxury when you're playing live. But believe me, if there was a magic way to say, okay, every time I played a double gapper on the button versus every time I played a double gapper in early position. So I'm saying you cannot play a 5-7 in early position because you don't know what the price is going to be. You shouldn't be able to have to take a raise with it. 5-7, my favorite hand, that kind of thing.
Right.
You need 2 callers, and you might go a whole 4 or 5 hour session. That does not happen.
Sure.
It might be the texture of the game. There are certain games where it's like a barbecue and it's a calling party. Let's get the razor. It's like, and those are the kind of games where speculative hands win a lot of money. So the position and the situation are key. That's one.
Right.
2, the number of players, which really, if you want to summarize it, is you're getting the right price. You're going into the grocery store. You like Trader Joe's?
Of course.
Okay, well, you walk into Trader Joe's and you see these Gala apples for 99 cents a pound, and the Honey Crisps that you usually buy are $2.49. You might go for the Galas, because it's a good deal.
Right.
You're getting the right price to play. And then once you do play, that's where discipline and judgment come in. And when you have to get off of the draw or you're getting priced in, priced out, what are the effective stacks? And now I'm getting ahead of my skis here. Anyway, I am going to stop talking. Obviously, I drank my coffee this morning.
Well, I do want to bring up one point, though, because I think it should be mentioned, if you're playing a speculative hand, you also have to be willing to get away from that hand. If the situation comes out, if you're playing 5-7 offsuit and the flop comes out ace, king, 7, just realize you've only got a pair with a crappy kicker too.
No, that's not a hand that you would want to continue with.
Right.
And by the way, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I train my students on advancedpokertraining.com.
Yeah.
And they really have it set up where you can set up the same situations over and over and over again. So if I feel like one of my players has got a leak and they're not playing 5-7 the right way, just like you said, we can take that 5-7, put us in middle or late position or whatever, and play it over and over and over and over and over again until I have a really good feeling that the player actually grasps what he was doing wrong, and it's like, aha. And that actually happened with one of my real life students last week. We were playing hands and it turned into a lesson about speculative hands. And that wasn't even designed that way. Sometimes we just get in and we play hands randomly together. And that's where, a hand came up. And then you can replay the same hand over and over again. It's a really great training tool.
Yeah, so it's good to be able to use that tool. I know advanced poker training is a powerful tool. There's a lot there. So to wrap things up here, what kind of conclusion do you have here with speculative hands?
Speculative hands and pairs, really knowing how to play them and being comfortable when you get those kind of hands and not having to have that deer in the headlights look, should I play, shouldn't I play? Really understanding when to play them kind of separates your hourly rate from another person's hourly rate. There's going to be a wide gap between the person who does and the person who doesn't.
Sure.
If you're losing in poker, then you can maybe get to break even. If you're break even, you could get to winning 3 or 4 big blinds per hour. If you're already making that much, and everybody imagines they are, but those are the people that don't keep records. But if you are making that much, you can maybe even shoot for 10 big blinds per hour. Yeah. But if you're making 10 big blinds per hour, stay in that game. You got a good game.
Right. That's true. All right. Well, we covered speculative hands this week. We'll touch on pairs next week. That sound good?
Perfect.
All right. Well, Mark, I appreciate you being here, and we'll talk again next week then.
All right. Thanks a lot, Joe.
Absolutely.
It's time for Joe's One Outer.
I actually had a different one outer planned for this week, but Rob Fulfer sent me an email, and it's been in the back of my mind since. First of all, Rob, thank you for the email. I'm glad the new format is one that you're enjoying. I understand it took some time to warm up to, but I'm glad you continued to give it a chance. But the part of the email that's been in my mind is what someone at the poker tables with him said. As they were playing, yet another tragedy was being reported on the news, and the gentleman next to him said, "More people should play poker and learn to deal with the adversity and bad beats, because life is hard, and it'll give you its share of bad beats. But being a poker player seems to help you cope with them. It teaches you how to cope with them, move on, and keep trying." I believe that statement to my core. Let's face it, we see so much tragedy in the world for one reason or another. But the key is always how we respond to tragedy. Now, don't confuse what I'm saying. Poker is a game. I'm not trying to compare it to the real world tragedies, but you can certainly learn a lot about your emotions when you play your A game only to be busted by a 2-outer on the river. You learn to get yourself together, walk over, and shake that person's hand. It seems that something similar happened to Rob when he busted on the money bubble shortly after this conversation. He said he felt okay and was genuinely happy that the gentleman that made the comment made the money. We probably can't solve all the world's problems with poker, but I'm willing to give it a shot, and it certainly couldn't hurt. Rob, thank you again for the email. If you end up at the table with that man again, tell him I said congrats on the cash. That's today's one outer, and that's today's show. I'll see you next week, A-Team. And until then, I'll see you at the tables.
The Ante Up Podcast is a production of AnteUpMagazine.com. Contact the show at podcasts@AnteUpMagazine.com or call the show at 540-339-7741. If you'd like to advertise, send an email to editor@AnteUpMagazine.com.